What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's going on with the economic calendar thus far and how things are looking in my opinion. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. So looking at SPYs, things have been stuck between two important EMAs for the majority of the day. We're basically watching the 50 EMA on the 5-minute time frame. This is going to be currently around this 483.7 area. This is acting as a resistance. We have nice support around the 200 EMA at 482.73 specifically. These are some very, very tight ranges. That's like the range for now, but these are not the main support and resistance levels that I'm going to be eyeing at the same time. So I want to break down something important about SPY. I'm going to break down more details about the markets and talk about tomorrow real quick before I break down the charts. I just want to mention that when it comes to the economic data, the CB leading index ended up doing a little bit better than expected. This was only down about 0.1% versus the 0.3% expectation, and the bill auctions were all as expected. Going into tomorrow, there's not really much data coming out, but we do have some earnings coming up which are quite significant, at least for the next couple of days. We have United Airlines and Logitech announcing their earnings today after the market closes. And then for Tuesday, which is tomorrow, we have Netflix and the others, not to mention Tesla and IBM on Wednesday and Intel on Thursday. So we have some big earnings coming up still. As far as the data goes for Tesla, we still had some bad news. I briefly went over this in the morning. The Tesla stock bulls have cut their price targets ahead of earnings, unfortunately. And this is Adam Jonas, who came out and cut his price target to 345, down from 380. This is having a negative effect on Tesla thus far. And let's talk about some levels on SPY and the market before I break down more details about Tesla and the others. So let's switch over to SPY first before I talk about Tesla. On SPY, this is actually looking very interesting. So this is resembling kind of like a head and shoulders like formation, but SPY is not really collapsing or anything like that. It's just very choppy, very sideways for now. Now, as you can see, this thing tried to push up to 485 and actually failed to break this resistance. It attempted, and ended up failing to really hold above 485. And this is a sign of weakness. If you want to be bullish on SPY, we have to try to get above this resistance right here, this 485 area. Try to get back above 485, and I think this thing could push up to 486 and 487.5. We haven't been able to break 485 quite yet. If you're bearish on SPY, you want to see this thing come down to 483. If we lose this 483 to 482.75 zone right here, this is going to be a big break of our gap. This all the way down here. And we could see this thing actually trace all the way down to 481. So there's going to be a risk of downside. If we start a downtrend, we also have this imbalance over here. An imbalance around 480 on the hourly time frame. So this would suggest, this would kind of bring this thing down if we do get a bigger drop towards 480. For that to happen, we have to lose, 482 and such. For now, we haven't really done that. And as of right now, we're actually just very choppy. It's very, very boring, if anything. So if you look at the price action, it's been back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth for essentially the entire day. So it's very boring for now, not really doing a whole lot. And now I just want to mention that we're going to likely just remain very choppy as time goes on. We're just very, very flat, very choppy. Not a whole lot is going on. SPY is very boring. But if you look at some indicators like the 4-hour time frame, does look like it might show some downside, especially if we lose the 5 EMA. So when we watch this, see if we lose this or close below this, this does signal some potential downside that could be coming. It may be very, very minor right now. It doesn't have to be a big drop, just a small little pullback before we try to continue from there. So just be alert. We'll see if that ends up being the case. What about for Tesla? Tesla was trying to bounce it, actually tried to push up, but this thing ended up failing, and we're about to turn bearish on our 4-hour time frame again. And this is amidst some more bad news that came out. We rejected off the 20 EMA. Unfortunately, guys, Tesla got all this bad news. We got some delays in potential factory production for Panasonic, which is negative for Tesla's battery production. There's also some negative news about some analysts which are cutting their price targets on Tesla. This is leading to this thing selling off even more. So unfortunately, although Tesla was getting some very, very nice signals for a bounce, it bounced a little bit, but it ended up failing because the bad news has trumped that, and Tesla's looking very, very weak. As far as Tesla goes, we've lost our support to the low we made from Friday, and we're just continuing to sink towards 205. 205 is going to be our key support. This 205 zone. If we end up losing that, I'm going to be watching for 202.5 followed by 200. Fortunately, it's looking very, very weak right now. It's just barely holding on. For resistance, watch this 207 zone. If we break above the 207s, our next target will be 210, followed by 212, 214, then 216. If we get above the 212s, there's potential for it to retest 216. But just to be safe, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. If anything, however, Tesla is favoring the bears a bit more. If you look at the charts favoring the bears now, it failed to, get that bounce. It was trying to, it just failed. And there's just so much bad news for Tesla. It's really, really negatively affecting the share price, and this thing may just continue to remain low for the time being. So it looks bearish, guys. Be very careful on Tesla. It could drop more. Not looking the best for the bulls, so I just want to warn you all to be very careful. As far as the QQQ goes, this is looking kind of weak as well because we're starting to turn on the 4-hour time frame, and we're actually approaching our next critical support. So I had this level mapped out. Let me just show you on the QQQ first. So the 4-hour is looking a little bit weaker, but simultaneously we're going to be watching our levels. We filled this gap. This is what I predicted would happen in the morning. Now we're barely holding 421 to 421.5, this range. If we lose this, there's 420. We have an imbalance, so it's going to likely test this soon. But we'll have to see if it holds 420. If we lose this, a bigger drop is coming below 418. If we hold 420, it could try to bounce. So watch that carefully. But for now, the QQQ is looking a little bit bearish. It's starting to sell off a bit. So it could sell off a bit more. So you want to be very, very careful, at least for the time being. Oh, and for resistance, I forgot to mention this. Make sure you watch 422.5. If you want to break above that, there is potential for it to try to get back above these high levels. If we break above that, it could get very, very close to the higher 423s, but so far it hasn't done that and still looks kind of weak. On Nvda, in my opinion, it's very flat, right? One of the things I said in the morning was that if Nvda were to lose, support, if it rejected off 600 and came down to 595, you're going to be watching it retest 592 and then 590. Those are some of the levels. This is where Nvidia bounced off of, and now it's very choppy. I also mentioned that Nvidia was stronger than the QQQ and the other tickers out there, so it's still holding up quite nicely. If you actually look at Nvidia, it's holding up decently. So other stocks out there are actually dragging the market down, whereas Nvidia is holding us up a bit. So it's very much just sideways, different stocks acting against each other. And I would say Nvidia is very choppy right now. It's very choppy, very flat. It might just continue in this range up here. It might just be stuck between 595 and 600 for the rest of the day, back and forth price action. I'm not really expecting too much. It looks very boring, so it might just remain in this range for now. For Aapl stock, Aapl has been holding up decently, got another push. It's a little bit stronger than expected, and it's still fighting for this 195 area. So I was talking about 195 being tested in my video from yesterday, but the problem is we're now struggling to break that. So you want to be very careful at this resistance because we're at resistance on Aapl now. This is the full measured move we met. So it does look kind of strong. It does favor the bulls a bit on the 4-hour, but we're at resistance. So we'll have to see how it reacts to this. We're at a very critical state on Aapl. So if I were to hide these drawings and I zoom out of the chart like this, right, it's like a giant W-like shape. And we're approaching this area where Aapl rejected historically between 194.5 to about 195-ish. 195 is where we got this rejection on Aapl the last time we tested this. So we will see if Aapl rejects or not, but we're at resistance, so be very careful on Aapl. I'm going to be watching this very, very carefully. If we break the 195s, we could get very close to 200. If you reject, we could be returning to 188. So watch this very carefully. We'll see how Aapl does. As of right now, we're at some type of resistance, and we'll have to see how the news affects it. It's just shopping around this resistance area. It is looking like it's forming a bullish wedge, so it could attempt to push up, but just be careful because it hasn't actually broken out past 195 yet. Even if you have this bullish wedge, it could just test it again. But like I said before, I'm just going to be watching in the 195. It's kind of range bound right now, not really doing a whole lot. So just wait and see, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Please have a great day. Hopefully me going over these levels is very helpful. Some stocks out there are very indecisive like Aapl. Other stocks are looking weaker like Tesla. So watch, support, and do what you have to do, guys. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you and peace out.